Hey everyone, this is Dan with the Spiritual Underground podcast. You're just coming upon this podcast. We are primarily 12-step recovery based information, but I do entertain and like to explore other ways people got sober, and also have guests on that can bring stuff to the table. As one of the things about this program, if I don't continue to grow, I'll slip into stuff, and I like to have people that can bring new growth opportunities and new new modalities on the show once in a while, so that we can fulfill that. Plus, I get to check them out too on the very front row and learn about some of this stuff I don't know about. I get to make a new friend every time I have somebody on that I didn't know before. And just a lot of blessings goes come along with doing this podcast that I did not really expect when I first started it. Uh, so that is one of my guests today is, well, I don't know for sure if there's any recovery background there or not. We will let her tell that. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, Joanna?
Hello, everybody. I'm Joanna Walden. I'm an author and a speaker, and I'm a visionary transformation specialist. So I kind of work in the space of being a consciousness consultant or personal transformation. I essentially help people go from one state of being to another, because sometimes the old version of ourselves just isn't working anymore. And so I help people step through that change, essentially. And I guess, I come at it from a more holistic wellness and even spiritual perspective in all of this, because I've had that part of my life activated from a very young age and had all sorts of different experiences that opened my mind that this reality, there's lots going on in the unseen realms, just as there is in the seen realms. And so I'm kind of blending those two pieces of information together for people to help them maybe find a new pathway forward, get to know their true self even better, or just move through some of the challenges that we have in this human experience, really. So I wrote my first book, which I don't know if you can see that, probably with my face there, The
The
Inside
inside
Hustle.
hustle is
Yeah,
coming through.
and yeah, and that was my personal journey of evolution. And then I wrote this one, which is A Beautiful Radical Truth, which you can't see for some
It's
reason.
not wanting to
Oh,
do.
picking it up as well, because I've got my fuzzy background on. But yeah, I wrote two books that I've put out over the last few years. And the first one is, my story of personal evolution, which is, a little bit more like sex, drugs, and spirituality than it is the conventional path in all of this. And then that second book is really a book of channeled wisdom. So it's kind of just like a book of all sorts of higher wisdom that's come out of me, and was a bit of an experiment, actually, where one of the lockdowns I just woke up at 5:30 in the morning and just wrote whatever came out, and that was it. And it became A Beautiful Radical Truth. But yeah, they're really to help people shift and change, both of them. And I just, I'm really passionate about connecting people back to that level of their true self that they can start to facilitate changes in their, in their human life with. So yeah,
You know,
that's
for a lot of people, it's just not. They're having trouble finding themselves really. And I know for
exactly.
the longest time, we talk about like I was like a pinball in a pinball machine. I was just bouncing off of the catalysts that were in my life with no particular direction, and basically just reacting to whatever happened to me rather than finding like a path with a purpose and a direction.
Me
We
too.
use the term,
Yeah.
when we say recovery, it gets held up around the substance abuse and alcohol kind of world, but we have a term or a definition we like to use. It's to reclaim that which was lost or stolen. Recover. We recover our very souls. They get
Yeah.
because one those two things fit me. Some of it was stolen from me by actions of others, and some
Mhm.
of it I freely gave it away. I lost it. I give away parts of myself. And
Mhm.
after walking this path for a while, I have gathered me back up again and have a whole me again to be able
Yeah.
to move forward with. And then, of course, with that, and I'm sure you feel the same way, it's no good to me if I'm not giving it to somebody else.
Yeah.
It's no
Absolutely.
good for me just to sit around and hoard it to myself.
Yeah.
Uh, so,
I think we all go on these intensive journeys, and we each have a path through all of it. And some of it is to do with drugs and alcohol and addictions, and others have their challenges in different departments. Maybe it's trying to have a baby, or maybe it's whatever. But ultimately they're all kind of with the same theme, and it is just part of the spectrum of this human experience. And I think, we're really, all of us, just coming home to the self and all of it, coming home to that true beacon and, that to our soul, as you mentioned. And that's really where the gold is. And when we stop sort of, buying into some of the illusion that we might be buying into and have created and taken on board from outside of us and
Yeah.
in our life experience. And when we realize that not everything is true that we have taken on, and we've started to believe things that, maybe were a choice, and maybe that choice was working for us at a time, but then it becomes outdated, and we're just, we get things are going to happen in our life to kind of like push us through a bit of change.
Yeah.
And, I do believe that there is a kind of life force energy that's moving with all of us. It's happening. Things in our life are happening for us to wake up out of the dream, so to speak, and find that place, come back to that home beacon within us, so that we can actually show up in that beautiful magnificence of who we truly came to be on this planet, right? Without all the falsities and out of the conditioning and things we took on along the way, or maybe we just explored because we thought it was fun at the time, and then it led
Right.
down a pathway into whatever. But none of it's, necessarily wrong or right, I don't believe. And, I really step out of judgment in all of this and more into the higher perspective, where we can see things from that level, that it is all just about bringing ourselves back home.
Yep. Yep. You'd mentioned this in my experiences, and I don't know what to call it. And thankfully, I joined a program that didn't make me call it anything in particular. That there's a power out there that I can plug into. It's like a big giant extension cord that's running through the universe, and I can plug
Yeah.
into it, and I can also pull my plug
Yeah.
and see what happens then. And
Yeah.
when I'm plugged into that, I always say that, and I guess this is an antiquated saying, but the skids are greased in life. Things tend to go nicely more times than not. That when I'm
Right.
plugged into that power, and actually, what happens is things work out better than I would have planned to myself.
Yes, that's the one. Yeah, it's quite amazing, I think, when we can step out of this view of us really trying so desperately to control everything in our life a lot of the time. And when we do surrender into the trust of that higher power that we have accessible within ourselves, like that makes all the difference in the world. Because often what I found in my personal journey, we're just fighting against ourselves the whole time,
Swimming
in all
upstream.
these different ways, like, gosh, so many of them. And it all kind of just leads to the same place, which is, wake up out of the dream, kind of thing. And, we do learn and grow through the contraction and expansion that constantly happens on this journey. It's a very gestative kind of process. But I think, there's a lot that, we need to take radical responsibility for within ourselves and all of this. I work a lot in the world of energy, and everything comes down to, everything is made up. This computer that I'm sitting talking to you from, this chair that I'm sitting in, everything is made up of energy, right? We perceive it as solid and whole, but actually it's just vibrating energy. And as are we, and as is everything around us. And so when we start to understand ourselves a little bit from that regard, it's like, wow, you actually can never really be truly stuck because you're constantly vibrating energy. It's actually like physically, scientifically impossible. And it's like funny when because we have the perception or the illusion or the current experience of feeling stuck maybe where we are, or unable to move forward in some way, but it's actually, scientifically impossible actually. So when we can come back to that and we're like, oh, okay, hold on, what else is in the way here? Maybe my thought patterns that I'm, and how I'm feeling about myself, or maybe, I've bought into some kind of idea from someone else about something that's limiting me right now, like it comes from everywhere. These restrictions and limitations that we're meant to move through and move out of, and they can show up in any form along the way. And I've certainly had my instances exploring the wild extremes of drugs and alcohol on my path too, and brought myself back to my center in all of this and changed my pathway. And, I guess I'm thankful I never had to go into an official program to help me out of that. I managed to help myself out of it with using my own things. But everybody has their own pathway forward, and that's beautiful too. But I've definitely, come from one place. And a lot of that I talk about in the Inside Hustle. And I kind of make fun of it because if we can't laugh about some of it, then, like, what are we
Yeah,
really here for?
yeah, no
But
doubt.
I really expose myself in my journey in that, including all the drugs and alcohol, because I'm not going to show up here now and be like, oh, I'm this puritanical kind of, teacher of all things in personal transformation, because that's not who I am, So it's certainly given me a colorful journey and story to my life. And I don't think I would be able to connect with my clients and community in the way that I do without having traversed that journey myself.
Yeah,
Absolutely
right.
not.
Yep, yep. Again, that's the whole that's the basis of how we do this 12-step thing. I've been there. I've been where you're at. And, some of
Yeah.
us can't unstuck on our own. You're fortunate that you were able to like find your way out of that. What,
Yeah.
obviously it was not working for you at some point, or else you wouldn't have been wanting to get out of it. And,
Yep.
but some people get stuck in there and they can't get out of it without help. And I was
Totally.
one of those. I had to have somebody take me by the hand and ultimately, guide me. He had a light. He had the lights, and I was in a dark room all by myself. And I had to take his hand and trust that he was taking me, taking me out of there.
Yeah.
And my own story, I couldn't listen to him unless I believed that he had been where I was at. So
Mm.
we relate with each other in our stories. Ultimately, at some level, that's all we really have is our stories. Uh,
Yes. Yeah.
and everybody, I wish that I could have fun with it today, like do it in a recreational way. But I've proven to myself over and over again that I'm incapable of doing that.
Mm.
It flips some switches in me, and I go south quickly with it. And flip side of that is that now that I found my way out, I wouldn't go back to it anyway. This is too good.
Yeah.
this this
Exactly.
is this is way too good.
And that's the thing, there's not really a one shot solution for any person because we're all so uniquely different. And this is also how I work with a lot of people because we're a very unique operating system. Each and every one of us have a totally different thumbprint and blueprint that we are operating out of. And we've all come in with these incredible gifts and abilities and strengths and weaknesses, but all of it really to give us the experience in this life that we are meant for and we can handle in some sense of the word, and to be able to move through and show others maybe a new way to do things as well along the way, and inspire each other and support each other and hold each other through the depths of some of the darkness maybe that we can experience during this life. And I think it's so important to remember that about ourselves, that we are unique and that maybe we need to tweak a few things or follow our own intuition or our own gut feel, as
Yep,
we create these paths forward, and maybe pull inspiration from different ways of doing it so that we can really fall into a solid path ourselves that is going to work, and that
yep,
we can come out the other side like you, beautifully
yep,
feeling like, I just don't need it anymore because I feel really good. And ultimately, whenever we're reaching for anything outside of us, we are sort of experiencing some kind of lack or, a discordant energy within us. And as soon as we start to really go in and address that and the level, no matter how that is, we start to experience change. And when we change from the inside, we experience change in the experience of our outer reality. And that's a big part of the work I do, And so not everyone, I've worked with also recovering addicts and things like that. And not everyone is in that form, but maybe they're struggling with something else. And, all of it is so connected in every single way that a lot of people are experiencing the same things just in a different iteration. And yeah, and going through their own version of their own journey along the way to do what they need to explore and come out the other side. But the only one constant is change in all this, really, isn't there? So
yep. That
yeah,
is,
as long as we can
yeah.
continue to start surfing the energies with a bit more ease and grace maybe than we used to, then we can have a bit of an easier time with it.
Yep. Yeah, that couple of things you talked about, here in North America, when you bring up the spiritual idea, everybody defaults to what they were taught as children, or most of them were taught as children of our Western God, and try to get a guy to because they projected that premise, and to get them to let go of that thought and build their own connection with whatever it is. And I'm certainly not going to stand here and proclaim that I know what it is,
Yeah.
but I've harnessed it and it's working for me in my life. And then
Yeah.
the other thing is this inside job thing. That's been a teaching from as long as we've been putting stuff down on paper writing stuff, from Buddha stuff wasn't even, it was verbal passed on. And that was a big piece of his, is that's an inside job.
Mhm.
But there's a funny thing that was about the human condition that wants to not, because I couldn't get, when my sponsor first started laying these tools at my feet too, there's some rejection to where I feel like I need to control it. I have to make this stuff happen. That I can't just let this inside run the show. And
Mm.
today, guys, I always say, if I'm doing anything any more important than buying new underwear, I talk to my sponsor about it, because I got this guy, this mentor that I can run my stuff by, and that's a bit of an exaggeration. But when I've got decisions to make, I got another guy to talk to. And
Mm.
time after time, when my guys come to me and want to know, like, what do you think I should do? One of my first things is, what's your gut telling you?
Yeah.
You said, what's you've worked these 12 steps with me. You've had this spiritual awakening as a result of that. What's your gut saying to do? I'll bet you anything that's the right answer.
Yeah.
Dan's not going to be able to give you the right answer. We can talk about it. We can dialogue,
Yep.
because there's some magic that happens out of that dialogue too.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
ends up. My sponsor usually doesn't give me my answers, but as a result of talking to him, I
You
get
come
my
to your own
answers. And I'm sure
conclusions.
that comes through with you too, where your clients are coming to you and receiving their answers because of the channel you're opening up for them to
That
explore in.
That's right. Like, I'm not here saying, I'm going to fix you. Like, it's not about that, because people need to bring it back to their self. And I'm the guide who's guiding them through the process, giving them tools along the way, and giving them maybe another way to look at things in this reality that is a little bit outside of the normal frame of reference. And so
Different
all of
perspective.
that's really helpful. Yeah. And, in all my work, I work really a lot with what I call heart technology.
Mhm.
And I think we're all kind of in this journey of relying so dominantly on our head in these times, and bringing it more into the heart space. And I don't know if you're aware of the Institute of Heart Math, but in regard to and they've been doing independent work into the relationship between the heart and the brain for the last 30 years. They're in North America also, and so they've been doing a lot of scientific studies about it. And the most amazing thing is that gut feel, or that other information sometimes that we can get, can come from the heart. And they did this amazing blind study where people were shown flashcards that were going to provoke some kind of emotional response within them. Let's call it, a positive or a negative one, so to speak. But, when they were shown the flashcard, they found out that the heart was registering, and the whole body was actually registering from the heart the negative or positive reaction that was coming 3 to 5 seconds before they'd even physically seen the card.
Heard a little about that. Yeah, that's
Yeah. And so it's so interesting now that, science and study is coming to back up some of the stuff about our intuitive power and all of this. And it is a real
yeah.
thing that people can actually dial into and rely on in their lives so much more, And yeah, maybe the science is just backing it up now, but it is very much a thing that's super important for us. And, ultimately, this isn't the mainframe that we were taught it is at school that should make all the decisions and tells everything in the body what to do. They found that this sends way more signals to the brain than the brain actually sends to the heart, like on a scientific level. And so it's really, really fascinating now how when we come into this heart space, like, it's incredible when you come into heart brain coherence, which is a very simple technique that allows the brain waves to harmonize between each other. And when we're harmonizing and putting these into sync, then we can hear our intuition a lot more. And it actually sends our physical vessel into homeostasis, and it balances our emotions. And it's doing all of this stuff that really is a harmonizing, calming effect on our whole entire being. So if we're in periods of stress, it's really great to be able to fall back on techniques like that take minutes, mere minutes to dial into, and all it is slowing down the breath, focusing into the heart, almost like imagining that was breathing, and then facilitating some kind of feeling of either gratitude if you can't get to anything else, or any uplifting feelings of sort of, joy or excitement. If you're in a really good space, and that's good for you too, but you can just get it from gratitude for the very basic, simple things like, the sky that's there today, every day, like basic stuff like that. But all it takes is a few minutes of doing that, breathing and actually facilitating those feelings within you, creating from the inside out. That actually has an incredibly powerful and lasting effect on your body and being for hours and hours and afterwards.
Yeah.
So it's just so, we really do have all the tools we need within us, really, when it comes down to it. And sometimes it just takes us a while to cotton on and find it. And I think, when we can really embody it in our experience and figure out our own way, because we are so unique, then we start to kind of see the path forward a bit more clearly, and things start to kind of come into synchronistic alignment for us. And that flow you were talking about is there for us to harness and move with that energy. Yeah, an
Yeah,
interesting way.
the whole chakra stuff about we got these energy centers in our body, and that seems like a lot of alignment to some of the old teaching of this stuff. But we've got these energy centers in our body that need to that it's important to keep in alignment to make sure that we're operating on at the level where I believe we're supposed to be operating on. Right, we've kind of dumbed ourselves down in a sense
Yeah,
by not doing
really
that.
have.
And then it made me think of the body keeps the score stuff, and we could have people could have a lot of bad stuff happen to them that'll cause these energy centers, but we're holding energy in there that's blocking stuff from being able to get into alignment. And
Yep.
that's something work that needs to be done to move that energy to the side so that I can get this thing aligned. And it's just, again, it seems to be the human condition that that's what it's what we're sitting here to do is uh,
Yeah.
experience stuff, and some of it's not going to be good, and some of it's actually going to be really painful. But we need to get that stuff processed and put in a place where it's not blocking us anymore. And I don't say
Yeah.
that we drop it, because it's still a piece of me, and I get it out to use it sometimes when I'm helping somebody else that I've been there too. I've done me too.
Mm.
Um, but well, if I'm not aware of it, it can really keep me. You used the word stuck earlier.
Mhm.
It can keep me
We're
stuck
in a
if I
loop,
don't do stuff with, or in a loop. Yeah, where I'm
right?
spinning in a cycle and
And
just
we just
the
do it
vicious
over
cycle.
and over and over again. And
Yeah,
that's
repeat
coming
these
from
patterns.
our wounding, right? Yeah. And that's
Yeah,
what I go in and help people do. Because obviously, when we're in it, we can't necessarily see it. We kind of got the blinders on. And when you're in it, you can't see outside of yourself sometimes. But ultimately, what we've all gone through in this human experience from the ages from 0 right up, those first 7 years are hugely formative. And things happen sometimes during that time of our life that we don't even remember, that are impacting us in the way that we are showing up today. And all of
there's
it
even some
is
science that some of it's prenatal.
right,
That
exactly. I mean, literally from, yeah, 0, like, that's that.
negative.
We're getting impacted with stuff all the time. And yes, I do believe it's actually all divinely orchestrated, because ultimately we're meant to move through some of these challenges in order for us to expand into a new level that we wouldn't be able to get to had we not maybe done it that way. And yes, I do
Yeah,
think there's various choices and all of that as well. But it's not like a fait accompli necessarily. But at the end of the day, we have all been lifting, shifting, moving some of these deep traumas that we've been carrying. And that has been causing us to act in certain ways or align with certain choices in our life experience so far, that have been leading us to certain areas. And when we can start to, as you say, move that energy or shift it, change it, or recalibrate it in some way, and understand and see those loops and patterns for what they are, and maybe where they came from in our psyche and our mind and emotions, and that programming that's in our subconscious that just kind of keeps us like doing some of this stuff over and over. But when we can kind of bring awareness to that, that's almost as much as can be needed to make a shift and change. And then other times we need to go deeper, and other times we need to go even deeper. But we really are able to reprogram ourselves in all of this. And I want to just make sure that anyone who's experiencing a really hard time right now knows that we do have the power to shift and change ourselves out of absolutely anything, and
yeah.
that there is hope, and there is a way, and there is the ability for us to move ourselves forward when we're ready, and ask for help when we need it to guide us along the way. Yeah.
So let's shift gears just a little bit. You said something earlier about since you were a child that you had felt some energy. You felt different. You felt like you were picking up some signals or whatever since you were young. Did I hear that?
Yeah, yeah. I
Tell
mean,
me a little about that, because I don't have any recollection of that. But like in my guess, I find that the feminine tends to have that more than the masculine. pieces of us.
Yeah.
Us dumb males bump along for a lot longer, and the gals seem to be picking something up way
Yeah.
earlier in life. Like, what do you
Yeah.
remember?
Well, I always remember being quite connected and things sort of happening that were a bit unusual that I didn't really understand. And I think I thought at the time like I was seeing different energies and part of me didn't know whether I was sort of making it up or not or what, but I was highly connected and in tune with nature. I'd received visions of things happening before they did, and some of that was to help me out when I was going into times of trouble or making bad choices along my teenage years, along the way, which I mean is quite funny, but I would receive these kind of flashes and these intuitions, and yeah, it happened in all sorts of, or someone saying something to me out of the blue. And so there was bits and pieces of that. And I've got to say, my parents, my dad was kind of a business guy, and my mum was very much in the spiritual world. She was exploring all that stuff. So they were like chalk and cheese, we say in New Zealand here, where they're kind of like, butted heads quite a bit in that regard, because they're very from different camps. And so I guess was predisposed to that side of life, being open to it, just
Yeah,
because of
yeah, yeah.
but then
That's
having
cool.
these experiences and even someone coming to me when I was I don't know if I was 17 or 18, and I'd been attracted to go and talk to someone, and I'd asked for a lighter for a cigarette at the time I smoked, knowing that I had one in my pocket, but I knew I needed to talk to him. And he said, "I've been waiting for you to come and talk to me. I've got some messages for you," right out. And he just started telling me all the stuff about me, my life, my purpose here on this planet, all this kind of stuff. And I was sort of like blown, like really, my mind was totally blown by that. And I was like, wow. And, I just guess I continued to sort of, that was a part of my life, but I focused on going to get a job and doing university, going to get a job, doing all these things that I thought I should do, and less into that. And so I got to a time in my life during my corporate career, which is in advertising, actually in New York and London for like 16 years. And I just felt like there was something missing. And so that sent me on this journey back. And I did still have my spiritual side that I sort of did. And I'm spiritual, I don't want it to be confused with religious, because it's not that at all. I'm still talking about definitely more a conglomeration of different kinds of belief systems, I guess, about energy. And most of what I receive is direct in my experience. But it set me off on a more, I guess, intentional journey around that stuff, because I knew that I wanted to be doing something that felt really good and in service of people or service of others, and that I felt like that was a place that maybe I could move into, but I had no idea what that was at the time. And so I think my coming back, it's like I dropped out of the level of experiences as having when I was younger, had this massive gap, went and did all this work and university and all of that in between, and then came out the other side and then started dropping back into it again and having more experiences. But yeah, now I definitely hear different energies sometimes. Sometimes I see different stuff. I feel a lot, like I really feel different energy moving in different ways. And, in all of my work, I'm relying on my extrasensory kind of abilities to be able to perceive into the bits and pieces that people can't see for themselves. And even for me too, I'm always kind of looking at reality in a very different way to other people because I'm seeing through the layers of what it is on the surface and looking beyond that, right? And when we start to do that, that's when you can start to tell where the energy is getting stuck or blocked or whatever, that maybe we need to start to unpick for ourselves to liberate ourselves out of it. Um, so yeah, it's been very interesting, but all sorts of different experiences, from meeting random people who give me messages to actually seeing and hearing energies to nature spirits kind of appearing when I do a lot of work in nature, because I do a lot of work at sacred sites, those kind of powerful portals in the earth. And all of it just kind of adds up to this, yeah, more unusual life experience that I'm having now. And really, it's sort of like, wow, that old life, that was pretty interesting. I was a completely different person, and now I'm in this new life. So very, very different. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's seems to be a pattern too. We go off and there's this check boxes that what life tells us we need to do. We do this, we finish the high school,
Right.
and go to college, get a job, da da da. And I worked for a corporate company here in Louisville, Kentucky for 28 years. And
Mm.
my heart wasn't in it at the end. I started having
Yeah.
that feeling of like the emperor had no clothes on kind of thing, where I felt like, well, every time these weird things has happened, I was hearing circus music playing. Like this is a funny game that I'm not sure I want to play anymore. But I had a big ocean. They kind of roped me in with health insurance and
Good
benefits
money.
and
I
all
know,
this and
right?
money, nice salary, and I could not let go of it. And
Hmm.
higher power or something come in and tapped me on the shoulder and jerked me out of that. It wasn't my decision. They tapped me on after working there for 28 years. And in March of 2019, they tapped me on the shoulder and said they didn't need me anymore. And I was relieved. I knew what that was. There was still the shock of it all, and the fears that I had to work through. But all in all, I was like, all right, cool. What's next?
Yeah.
Now I'm actually going to get to do something that I want to do.
Right.
And shot up. And I worked for him for 24 years as an alcoholic drug addict. And I worked for him for 4 years sober, and they let me go.
I
um,
mean, that's the thing though, I think in all of this, our how we're feeling within and our purpose and whether we're feeling like we're really aligned with what we're doing and it's is really important and then we do go outside to make ourselves feel better with all sorts of different stuff because we're actually just not feeling okay within ourselves really and coming from whatever it doesn't really matter but when we are out of alignment I guess with where our true self wants to go we're going to be in those crunchy situations where we're not feeling good about ourselves and we're reaching for other things to sort of fill the gap and fill the void, so to speak.
right.
And,
Yep.
I think I felt like that too. I mean, even though I just sort of loved working in glamorous advertising and travel and all sorts of things and the money and all of it, but ultimately it wasn't making setting my soul on fire, wasn't making my heart sing.
Yep.
And I got to the point where I was like, I actually really need to figure that out because that's not it's kind of working against me right now because I'm just like distracting myself out here there and everywhere with everything else and so I do think that's a big part in this journey that we go through when we are living a life of what someone told us to be or what society told us to be versus really what we truly came here to be and that push-pull energy that's like the battle between those two sometimes causes all sorts of different things to happen in our life that we have to traverse and move through to come back home. But
Yep.
yeah,
Yep. Because today, most of the time, I feel honestly can say that I feel that I'm where I'm supposed to be doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
I love
And
that.
and
Really
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, to and it all falls back to helping other people. It all
Yeah.
help people come out of that funk. We started using the 12 steps here and offering them to anybody that wants them in Louisville. Not just alcoholics, addicts, and I've had the opportunity to sponsor a number of people that would in the AA and NA and that kind of stuff. We call them normal people because they don't drink or drug, but
Yeah.
yet there's still something. And you said this earlier, something was missing in their lives, and they
Yeah.
came to us to get it. And I think that's exactly the same thing as what happens that it's the dope and the booze can kind of push you violently into that. But to watch people to harness this, and it does the same thing. There's some realignment of your soul that happens when you do this work, and just I call it a jumping off point. It's a springboard to get you out of the hole, and
Yeah.
then once that happens, go see what you're really into.
Hmm.
What then you can actually follow your true north and
Hmm.
get in alignment with what you really want to be doing, what
And
makes
that's
your heart sing.
yeah, and I think also, we're actually highly sensitive beings. We're
Hmm.
really, really, really more sensitive than we've probably given ourselves credit for. And I get that sometimes this world can be really overwhelming and it can be a lot, and I think all of us haven't really given ourselves enough of the respect and understanding of being so highly sensitive about everything and being able to feel and not understand what that is. And, because we've kind of lost touch with ourselves in that kind of
Yep.
way, in a deeper
There's a
way.
lot of messaging coming to us to distract us as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
Sit around
mean,
and watch. Everybody's telling you what you ought to be driving, what you ought to be drinking, what you ought to
uh,
be doing,
Exactly, yeah.
and
That's what I call the programming and the conditioning of this reality, and it's like all
yep,
of that really isn't the most important thing for us at all.
yeah,
And
we call it
so
systems and institutions is what we call it.
yeah, exactly. And I think all of us have been sort of tainted by the brush of this reality in that way, or of everything that's gone before. And a lot of that stuff has been born at a certain time on the planet, which may have been useful at the time, but may not be useful now where we're at, and equally needs to go through a shift and transformation itself, you know? And but yet we sort of just take things on because the generation before took it on, and the one before that took it on, and then here we are being like, what are we even doing? Why are we doing it this way? Or why are we thinking like this? Or why are we believing this about ourselves? And why do we have to do that way that society says? And I think it's really important to unpick a lot of that and work out what is authentic truly to us
Yep,
and
yep,
who
and
we
you
are
have to do
and
some
what
work
isn't.
around that.
Yeah,
That just
you
doesn't
do.
come for most of us naturally. You kind of have to
That's
push
correct.
into that. There's a block that keeps you from wanting to do that. And
Yeah,
no matters how much pain and how much, suffering, how much you're going through can actually help you push through those things and get to that next level. I just rolled my eyes because there was a giant big thunder head that just went rolling
I
through
saw
here.
you do that, and I was wondering
I
what
was
it
like,
was.
it wasn't because of you. It was the whole building shook for a second, which I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed on the power and the internet. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, wow,
Uh,
wild. I love a good storm, though. I miss the
yeah,
storms in
I do too. Yeah. And I'll tell everybody out there, Joy, you're coming to us from New Zealand, right?
New Zealand, yeah.
Were you born there?
Yes, I was.
Yes. I know you said that you spent some time in London and New York and other places, but you're
Yeah.
native there.
Born in New
Uh,
Zealand. My mum was South African, but my dad was a New Zealander, and I was born here. I grew up in Australia and then obviously spent a lot of time in New York and London. So little melting pot accent right here.
yeah, yeah. Um, you were talking to one of my there's no place I'd rather be is like in the forest, in the woods, yeah, out in nature. That's a place where I plug in.
Me
I grew
too.
up from a kid being a hunter, and I didn't know, until I got to where I'm at in recent years. I finally figured out what I was really doing. I really wasn't, hunting really,
No,
and I
you were
never have
forest
been a big
baby.
killer or anything. Yeah, I'm just almost using that as an excuse to go out in the woods, and I still kind of do. There's
Yeah.
something that I just don't go hiking unless it's like there's some purpose behind that. But I haven't killed anything in 20 years. But I hunt as much as anybody. I love the woods. I love the big trees. I feel like there's something comes through those energies that's sitting at the base of a big tree for a couple hours.
Absolutely.
Or even, with the way we hunt here, you climb up in that tree and sit in it. And
Hmm.
when you're in that elevated position, everything on the ground comes back to life because you're not down there with it. All the animals, a lot of them really don't look up there for you, and then you
Mm,
really get to feel like you're part of it. Then not an intruder. For the longest
that's
time, it felt
right.
like I was intruding, and today it feels more of being plugged into it. Big group of us have been going to Colorado every fall, and under the guise of hunting, but we're really it's our
Yeah.
12-step group. I'm in part of my home group is a men's group, and it's just
Oh, beautiful.
fantastic. It's just best bunch of guys you could ever imagine. These friends that I have today, I'm blown away by
Mm,
the friendships I've made, and the deep meaningful connections with these other dudes. That was something I never could do. I couldn't open myself up to letting men into my life. Heck, for that reason, letting women into my life.
mhm.
Um, you know, kept that mask on.
Yeah,
I thought I needed to
will
be
do.
what you needed me to be.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We're all running these different masks, from who we've been, that we've been hanging on to the whole time, that we're kind of attached to. But there comes a time where, you got to kind of let that go and you start moving into a more authentic space. And I do think nature beautifully helps us do that. And it's so interesting your experience because you felt more part of it and less separate from it, the more connected you were to yourself.
Yeah.
which is a beautiful point about that whole journey, that it is possible. And it's only when we're feeling that disconnection or separation from things and outside of ourselves, which is kind of one of the false contracts that we've kind of taken on in this reality for whatever reason. And when we kind of come back to that, then we do feel much more a part of everything, and we do feel much more grounded in ourselves. And we're able to really appreciate and connect to nature for those qualities that you were talking about, and that wisdom. And, I think the beauty of what we can witness in nature is you literally see that intelligent force at work in nature all the time, constantly ebbs, flows, bring things back into balance. And that's there for us too. It's there right in front of us, everywhere we can see nature. And things are constantly shifting and changing, but always in the perfect balance and way. And, nature does expel energy when it needs to in certain ways, volcanoes, like all sorts of storms, whatever. And then also is tranquil. And it's just a constant, ever moving landscape that is bringing itself into balance. And I feel like that's what we're actually doing too in all of this. And it's so nice to be able to see that, wow, there is an intelligent force moving through everything around us, and it moves through me too. Yeah.
Yeah. A piece of that also for me is unplugging. We have a place in the country that just so happens that for a cabin we built that there's no cell phone service, and I hope that it never gets there, but it's creeping in.
Yeah.
You don't have to walk as far up the hill as you used to have to get service
Right.
anymore. It's coming down and down, but those things
Yeah.
do have off buttons on them too. So uh, it's a funny thing to not to have that other hang up, because that's something we talk about a bunch, and this how in one way this connection, I have this one world of connection with these real folks in my life that is beautiful and wonderful, and then I have this other element of connection in my life that I'm not sure. I mean, it serves me in some ways because I get to connect with you with it, and I get to,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
I can end up sucked in a hole, or being passed on some messaging that that'll take me for a little ride once in a while because of what's on that. I've stopped watching TV altogether, but these devices in our hands are have
Yeah.
taken place of that.
Well, you should come to New Zealand, because we've got a lot of
I would
off-grid
love to.
spots in New Zealand, and it's full of that nature that you love as well. And yeah, I mean, it's
My
quite
West
funny
guys
because
go. Some of my hunting people go to New Zealand regularly to
yeah,
hunt.
I
Yeah,
mean, it's funny because you can go somewhere in New Zealand and you can literally be the only person for a long time, and you just don't really see that in most other places I've traveled to all over the world. So we still do have that kind of sense of uniqueness that's really beautiful. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of nature, and if you like that kind of thing, it's not necessarily the most culturally advanced in the world in regard to kind of events and shows and all that kind of stuff,
right.
because we
Yeah,
are the arse end of the world, so to speak. But we also have plus 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 in other parts of our culture, like the Māori, and in nature and things like that. We have that in spades, which is really beautiful. Yeah.
what made? How did you make the jump out of the previous life to the new one? I know that probably wasn't. Did you ease into that, or did you just cut the cord and jump, or how did you make
Well,
that transition?
it's actually a little bit of a funny story, because I did just sort of cut the cord. I mean, when I was working in advertising around the clock in New York for so long, and I, was kind of just joking with my boss and our team that I was going to just run off and become a pilgrim and work out the answers to my life, kind of thing. And then I actually did. I just quit and I just went and did the Camino to Santiago, that pilgrimage trek across the north of Spain, which is over 500 miles, to put it in miles for you guys. 900 Ks if you're from my neck of the woods. But that it was hilarious because Shirley MacLaine, a very famous sort of writer and actress in your neck of the woods, had actually like basically written this book all about it, and said that when you walk this path, it kind of is walking these ancient ley lines of this pilgrim path, and that when you do it, it kind of zaps and realigns your energy and gives you all these incredibly profound answers. And that was her experience. So I was like, well, I'm just going to go and be zapped like Shirley. So I took off and did that. No experience, no training, like not much preparation. And that became, the first part of my book, The Inside Hustle, because that was my first step. And then, when I went to London, I moved to London after that. And basically, I didn't find all the answers on that trek at all. It just became a totally different thing. It kind of became a booze cruise on legs more than it became like a spiritually enlightening experience, to be honest. But there you go. I have to bring the humor into it because it's just I got many funny stories out of it, but equally it wasn't really, meeting the intention that I had set off on it. But I was really in a searching mode, and I think it took me into London after that, and I started training in a holistic therapy called kinesiology based on muscle testing. And so I did that for 4 years, and I was doing these bits and pieces, and none of it was kind of really landing, so to speak, as my next path forward. And eventually I sort of, after 7 years in London, I decided to take off and travel around South America, because I thought maybe I could get more of these like interesting spiritual experiences to write about, or these experiences that are kind of outside of the normal reality, and maybe that will help other people who are also on a similar journey. And so I went and did that, and then the Inside Hustle was born, kind of thing. But um, it wasn't a linear step-by-step process, and I did feel like every time I was sort of trying to do it, it wasn't necessarily working, or it wasn't necessarily right. And I think this is the interesting thing about energy, is when you are so fixated in the energy of search, and you're searching, 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 searching. Well, when you're in the energy of search, you can't necessarily be embodying the answer, because you're searching, searching, searching the whole time, if that makes sense. So it's
Yeah,
kind of one
that's
of those loops that you get trapped into, that I didn't realize that I was, until
yeah,
I sort of was like, oh, hold on, I can't embody the answer. I can't embody like the kind of the some kind of resolution on this if I'm constantly searching. It's just not going to land. So I changed my consciousness about it. I changed my mind and my intention, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to be searching. I'm actually now going to start reiterating to myself that I already have this answer, and allow that to open up within me. And so it's a slightly different way, right? And
yeah,
that was definitely a transition, and really quite key and fundamental in me being able to step into everything that I am today, because that was the part of me holding myself back, that I believed that I didn't have it all within me. I believed I had to become something else. I believed I didn't have my gifts and abilities switched on. I didn't believe that I had any purpose in helping other people, really. I didn't believe that I had anything special about me that was going to help others, or that was unique to bring to this planet. Like I was just in this whole belief system and insecurity about myself and who I was, and feeling like I needed to search and find it outside of myself. And I stopped doing that, and really brought it back within me, and started a different way of talking to myself about all of this stuff, and really just rewrote the script, stopped believing all that stuff that wasn't even true, and actually started reclaiming, back to your original point when we went into this, all that stuff about myself that was there, and and changing my relationship with myself around that. That's when all of it started really opening up, and I started getting all these amazing answers, and all these even more incredible experiences dropping in. But that was when I was getting in my own way, and like a really good example of that. And we all do it in these subtle ways, that we use our thoughts and emotions and belief systems and actions to continue an old way that we have been. And sometimes we need to just snap out of that and choose something different, and understand differently about ourselves and all of this, and rewrite the program, so to speak. So that's what I did.
I like it. That sounds. I can relate to a bit of it for sure. Went through a period of my life that real, and and again, I think it had to happen. As part of my journey of this searching, 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 searching. I went to yoga teacher training. I went to did this men's work club that's here in town, and searched. And like when I finally come to some point like you, I was like, well, hold on. I'm not. Let's stop for a minute and just feel
Yeah.
inside, and not and quit doing the coon dog running in a circle with his nose to the ground, never finding anything.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and I see guys do that today. I see guys that are on that search, and you can't
Yep.
really say anything to them. You just let them run their course, and
Yep. That's
uh,
right. They'll end up here eventually.
yeah, I
Like,
think yeah, it'll end up. Yeah, I think they'll get there if they long as they keep trying. Another
yeah.
thing I do like is that we're probably not going to. It's a funny thing to say that binds something, but you do need to expose yourself to different things, open up
Yeah.
and just get out of the comfort zone kind of thing, and say, okay, I'm going to
Mhm.
try this. I don't know if I'm interested in that or not, but I'm going to give it a shot. And then maybe
Mm.
you go, well, okay, that really didn't. do what I hoped it was going to do, and I'll
Yeah.
try this. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the way I saw my journey there for the first few years of my sobriety was just exposing myself to as much as I could, and uh, but it also, had that connotation of that searching. But also, I got exposed to a whole bunch of cool concepts that I could
Mhm.
gather up and bring in to
Yeah.
Dan. And
Yeah.
today I can be comfortable just about doing anything. It used to be that was another thing is that that might come from some consumerism, the stuff that if I only had this car, I'd be happy. If I was only making this much money, I'd be happy. If I was only living here, I was and kind of running that to ground there at the end of my search for that stuff. I was still kind of doing that. If I could only, be super yoga man. If I could only be, and then
Yeah.
finally slowing down and going, no, I'm okay just the way I am. Now I've got some new tools out of those trips, and
Yeah.
I still carry some of it. I love that in yoga they taught me that concept of being in alignment with my true north. That there's a
Yeah.
compass inside of my heart, and I'll know when it's in, and I also know when it's not. Things are
Yeah.
difficult. Things don't seem to work out very well, and I got to wrestle through and force things.
That's
And when I'm
right.
in my true north, it just goes. The
Yes.
skids are greased.
That's right. Yeah, I love that. That's my principles too. Yeah. I mean, you just kind of know like your reality is speaking to you. I talk about everything in our live stream experience, so to speak, or our live reality feed. Everything that's interacting with us is really just data and information about where we're at. So as you say, when we're experiencing like, you know, things throwing up that are challenging or things cropping up against our path and like that when it's hard and we feel like we need to force and push and try and like like running on the treadmill kind of thing, and when it's not doesn't have this element of flow and ease to it, yeah, that's where we need to make a shift because we aren't in alignment with ourselves in some way and all of that, and that's just reality speaking to us to tell us and give us a heads up so that we can change something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I certainly, I know I could not. I don't know if it's maturity, that kind of thing. I could not see that when I was younger in life, and I think at some level there's a certain amount of just the human maturity that you're just not. You're in a different space. It's a different season when you're 20,
Totally.
and
Yeah.
and then
You
another
think you know
season when you're
everything.
yeah, yeah,
You don't know anything.
yeah, and then and as it just progresses like that, it makes me look forward, and I like to talk to our old timers, because they bring stuff to the table that I haven't
Yeah.
seen. I look at my sponsor; he's a bit older than I am, and some level, I feel like I sit at the foot of a master when it comes to a lot of this stuff. And he was bringing. Uh, there can be some resistance in 12-step recovery to some of what you might say is this woo-woo stuff, the little bit
Yeah.
more uh,
Sure.
surreal stuff. And but my sponsors brought that to my table from the beginning, and of course I was resistant to it in the beginning. And now
Mhm.
I'll get some new guy comes ask me, I'll say, "You're going to think I'm a little bit crazy, and
Yeah.
I am sort of, but just listen to me and bear with me." And it's like I feel like I'm walking backwards real slow. Just come on, follow me. Come on,
Yeah. Yeah.
keep coming. And then they
Yeah.
stop, and you had to stop for a minute so you don't get too far away, and then you coax them into keeping going. And then it's
Mhm.
so cool later on. They're like, I never believed you when you were telling me all that, but now I
Yeah.
see it. I get it.
That's the thing.
That
I have
waking
that.
up moment, man, is just so cool. There's nothing fulfills me more than walking people down this path and watching them transform and watching their
Yeah.
families transform, watching their children transform as a ripple effect off of their change.
Yeah. Which is beautiful, isn't it? I mean, that's the thing. We literally are these, radio towers sending out these ripples and signals into everything that we come across. And so when we are making positive change within ourselves, we're able to really reach way more people and able to hold a beautiful energy for them to be able to shift and change as well. And so
Yeah,
obviously that's what you're doing now and your sponsor's doing and everyone who comes across your path and
you're
how
doing.
how beautiful, like
Yeah,
that's really where we get to all really support each other because we are also connected actually, beyond even probably what most of us can fathom until they start getting a little bit more woo-woo and actually realizing, oh, hold on a minute, there's something else going on here. But baby steps for those of
yeah,
us who are just, at the beginning of that journey, and that's all
yeah.
good too.
And it is funny, because you said we all are different, but we're all the same at the same time. And there's just these these both sides of the pendulum that don't really. I have an engineering mind, I need X, A plus B equals C kind of stuff in my head,
Yeah.
and to let go of that stuff because I see, like, the similarities of us there can't be denied either, but we all do have this little bit of different programming in us that makes us, like our fingerprints, and you said our blueprints and that stuff. And
Mhm.
it's kind of a thing. It's another one of these things where I had to let go. 12 steps philosophy tells me over and over again, I got to let go what I think I know. Because
Yeah.
the stuff I think I know is only going to hold me stuck. It's just going to hold me back. I have to,
Yep.
uh, I'm a full glass of water, and I have to pour some out to allow some more to come in. And as long
Yep.
as I sit here and think, I get on my guys fairly often because they'll be giving me this two words that I hate. They tell me when I'm telling them something, they go, I know. I know. I said, you don't know, or you wouldn't be sitting here with me today if you knew that.
Yeah.
Quit.
Yeah.
And maybe you do know it, but let's pretend like you don't. It's going to help you if you just dumb up and
Right.
pretend like you don't.
It's
Don't.
funny
I don't
though
want to
how
hear.
we're all very attached to what we think we know.
Yeah.
And that is ultimately a lot of the stuff that's holding us back. And no matter where we are in our life or what we're doing, we really could all be reevaluating that stuff ongoing because we are constantly shifting, changing, expanding, growing, and therefore things are going to become a bit stale and we're going to be ready for the next thing. And so if we're not actually, sort of dialing in to understand like, oh wow, where have we got space to grow and change and open into new territories? If we've closed that off already, we're never going to be able to really have some of the experiences maybe we came here for. And so I really, that's really aligned with also, what I help people through in my stuff as well,
Yeah.
and
So let's talk a
yeah.
little about that. What do you do? Tell me a little bit about your work.
Well, I do kind of consciousness coaching, transformation. So part of my work is one-to-one coaching with clients to help them change their state of being, get out of those loops and patterns and stuck energy and heal some of their wounding. Like there's that side of it, and I do that by not only bringing new perspective to things, but also taking people into practices, and we do sort of like these kind of like energy meditations that help us go in and make some changes internally within our system, whether that's on the emotional level or the mental level or even the energy layers of our body, which are part of our auric field, any of those things. But I also I run retreats here and overseas. I have a giant Atlantis gong, like an instrument that I
Mhm.
do. I take people into ceremonies with and sound healing journeys because
Yeah.
sound's got a really powerful vibration to help us shift. So doesn't have to be an instrument, could be our own voice, and that is our one of our most incredible accesses to our best medicine. Even just a hum has the ability to completely change things internally for us. So I play around with all of those kinds of things and take people into experiences, and I do online courses and all sorts of stuff just to help us navigate this human experience really and bring a different point of view and a different perspective to it to help break us out of the old patterns and bring us more into alignment with our authentic true self essentially. So yeah, I do all sorts of different stuff, but all of it is really about our own growth and evolution. All of it ultimately adds up to that, and that's what I'm really really passionate about. And yeah, just helping people see a new way forward when maybe they are just incredibly over themselves basically and sick to
Yeah.
death of
Yeah.
themselves, and we
So
all
we
get that
call
way. I got that way, I still
yeah.
do a couple of
The
times.
12-step language said bondage to self is the term, that I'm bonded to myself.
Yeah.
And I have some singing bowls, and there's a big gong that hangs in my bedroom wall,
Oh,
and also
amazing,
little
another gong
chimes,
buddy. Yes. Yeah, it's
and like to
really
do that.
powerful.
And I have, in my second year of recovery, the thought come to me to use that place I have out in the country for a men's retreat. And I've been doing that every year for a few years and try to expose those
Dude,
guys into new stuff. We used
yeah,
to play drum
cool.
circles, because that sound and everybody,
Yeah.
I'm not musical. Well, just hang on that for a little bit and
Yeah,
find out you're wrong. Before long, some
that's
music is
right.
coming out of us. And I remember I went to a yoga retreat once, and they had a sound therapy thing that just really touched me. And a gal sit in the middle, and we all laid with our heads in the middle of the circle around the instruments with our feet pointing out like a big starfish or something. And
Mm.
man, I really had a really impactful experience with that sound therapy in that particular time, and other times too. I got a friend that does chakra meditations with his singing bowls, 1 in every note to 7 notes or whatever. And
Yeah.
I tell my buddies that if my friend's name is Happy, and you need to go experience one of Happy's bowl meditations. You really need to go experience that, because that frequency and that sound
Totally.
does something to you. And he mics them up so they're like even
Yeah.
it's amplified.
Yeah.
It'll
And that's
make
the
it'll
thing,
make all
like
the hair stand up on you.
everything sound is so powerful, especially for moving through those blocks that we can't let go of, like we were talking about a little earlier.
Yeah.
And sound can just really get in there, like it gets into us in that way. And so it's super helpful for anybody who's really struggling to let go of something, or is struggling to move energy within themselves, move forward in their experience, any of that kind of stuff. Like it's super, super powerful. And I think there's going to be more information coming out about how truly powerful sound is.
Well, we
As
use
we
it to break up kidney stones.
That's
You
right.
know, uh,
That's right. I mean,
we're using it
it's
in the
used in
medical
medical
field
in the
to
medical
do
field
things like
more
that.
than you'd realize. Yeah, tuning
Yeah.
forks are used in the medical field, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
But we don't necessarily use it as our go-to for ourselves. If we're feeling a bit funky energy or whatever, we
Mhm.
can really utilize our voice or any instrument to just break that up within ourselves and try and reset, right? So yeah, it's incredibly a really powerful tool for us to use, I think. It's an
Chanting
underutilized
Om,
of course.
forever. I mean, it's almost stereotypical. And one of the first things that I got a wood shop in my backyard, and one of the first things I ever made for money and was wooden Om symbols.
How
And now,
beautiful. Yeah.
like, there's one sitting over here on that side of the podcast table, and my logo for my woodwork has got the Om symbol in it,
Yeah, wow.
because it was the
Cool.
first thing. It's what started me up. So the
Yeah.
back of my vehicles have stickers, the Om symbol, and then little did I know, when I started walking into yoga studios, they all had them in there too. And that synchronicity kind of thing, where all of a sudden the symbol became a part of my life.
Mm,
But it all falls from that frequency of the chant and what it
yeah.
does in you. That's the basis of that. And
Yeah. All of my work, I use sound, I use light, I sound, and I use light and geometry and all of that stuff. And sometimes, to be honest, I don't even really understand on a human level why or what it is, but I trust that what's coming through, and that's what I help facilitate, for people to go in and rewire themselves and move some of that stuck energy and be able to like reprogram from the inside out, So we are all vibrating energy. We're all sending out a frequency. And what we're pumping out is literally the average of everything we've got going within. So the average of our thoughts, our belief systems, our behaviors and actions, and and our emotions, all of it. And so, when we want to experience some kind of shift, we just have to look into all of those aspects and start doing a little tweaking, and then we're pumping out a new frequency, and then suddenly we're experiencing different stuff in our reality, because it's all in that kind of system where we're literally bringing in a vibrational match to our experience to help us in for whatever we need in that moment. And so yeah, it's really fascinating when you start to break it down. And I've been having a really interesting personal journey this year and these last few months of that, and really having to double down on that for myself and go in and reprogram myself so I can experience a different version of reality showing up for me, and especially in regard to relationships. And so it's been wild the way people have shown up differently in my reality based on what I've done within me. I mean, it's like a Jedi mind trick or something. It's so crazy. But at the same time, I'm like, wow, this has changed from one thing completely different now 6 months later. And I couldn't have made it up, as you say, when you kind of surrender also to that divine intelligence, or, that energy of life force. It can be more surprising than you ever thought, and even better than what you could have made up with your human mind. So yeah, that's definitely been my true to life experience over the last 6 months, especially. So it's been wild.
very cool. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I see, makes us giddy in a way, that's exciting. And you can see it when people are having those life experiences, life has become fun again.
Empowering.
For so many of us, it had ceased to be fun.
Hmm.
And it's
That's
supposed to
right.
be fun. We're supposed to laugh and
Take
be
the power
happy about
back.
it.
Create
We
the
say happy,
magic.
joyous, and free in our in 12 steps, and that's what the
Yeah.
term is, because it came from the 1930s writings, is that we are sure that God wants us to be happy, joyous, and free. And I'm
Yeah.
sure the universe, whatever that power is, well, that's where it wants me, not
Yeah.
sulking and worrying and
That's
uh,
right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting journey, that's for sure.
yeah, kind of be like getting a computer virus. You had to go in there and do some work to undo the
That's a
faulty
really good analogy.
programming in there.
That's exactly what I do. That's a really good analogy. I'm gonna use that one.
I know that, like for alcoholics and addicts, it is exactly that. Their systems get hijacked. It does it. Their whole operating system gets hijacked, and we got to go in there and reprogram that thing, and get that taken out of there. Because, like for me, I was doing stuff completely contrary to my true nature. It wasn't
Mm,
me. And even now,
yeah.
today, sitting and looking at what I did in the past, it doesn't even like really compute. It's like there's some other, like that was some other dimension that I don't relate with anymore.
Yeah, for
I'm so
sure.
far away from it, and
Yep.
uh,
Yeah,
get that all back in tune, and we can get you to have some purpose and some usefulness in your life.
that's right. Yeah.
Awesome. Did you send me? I don't know. I'll look back and make sure that I have your data to put in the show notes and that kind of thing. Your
I'm not sure if I
website,
do,
where
but
do
I can
people
send it to
contact you?
you.
Do that,
Yeah.
because I don't. Guy the other day I had on here was telling me, and I was like, I know I'm not going to get that right. And he said, it's easy. It's just this. And then we got off the air, and I tried to type it up, and then I couldn't find it. I was like, man, send
Oh,
me.
no, no, it's okay. I can send you some show notes with links to the book and my website and stuff just to add in
Awesome.
there. But
That'd be
yeah,
perfect. Thank you.
all
Well, it was
good. All
wonderful
good.
to spend an hour with you tonight. And
Yeah, so nice to
so
chat. Meet someone from
there's,
the other side of the world.
I'll say this over and over, but if you're watching certain area, if you keep your eyes on certain areas in the world, you can think that the world's really going to shit. But I keep on meeting these people who are forces for good, and over and over and over again. And I fully believe the good will win out over time. We're
Yeah.
just people think that's they're looking in the wrong spots.
That's right. That's right. Where our attention goes, our energy flows, right? So
Yep.
important. And
Yep.
yeah, really, really, especially where what we're engaging with and where we're spending our time, and that's having an impact with our energy and our frequency, and it's that matching experience. So,
Yep.
you know, it's like up to us to kind of make a change with that and actually choose to engage with people doing positive, beautiful things in the world like we are.
Exactly. Yep.
Making
Instead
all the
of like it's
makes all the
election
difference.
time in the United
Oh
States, and
yeah,
we,
I know.
I gotta keep my feet as far away from that as I
Yeah.
possibly can, because that's just not good spiritual food for me.
No, I don't know if it is for anybody really, but
No,
wow,
me
yeah,
either. But
bit of a volatile time, right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Wow,
All
yeah.
right. Well, I really appreciate
Okay.
it. And
Yeah,
hopefully we
you
can keep
too.
in touch at some level.
Yeah, for sure. If you ever get to New Zealand, you must give me a shout.
I will. All right.
Cool.
I hope to someday.
Yeah, you
Thank you.
should. It'd be great. I think you'd love it.
And then what time is it at your house now?
Well, it's Thursday, so I'm in the future.
Thursday. You're in the
Yeah, and
future.
it's 11:09 AM.
Yep.
Yeah,
And it's 7:09 p.m. in Louisville, Kentucky on Wednesday night.
exactly.
That's a trip.
I'm literally from the future right now.
Yeah.
Isn't
All
that
right.
wild?
That is wild. Yeah. So
So
people should
funny.
listen up. That's what we're future telling,
That's right.
what
I
your
know.
future can be.
Yeah, exactly. I'm from the future. And so, yeah, let me tell you.
That's great.
Amazing. All right. Well, thank you so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Righty. Thank you. And obviously, I will send you some links.
Yeah, sounds
All right.
good. Cool.
Have a good day. Bye bye.
All right. You too. Bye.